take my life
All you want to
savings.
do is lay horizontal.
And you're sitting like this. You're so sweaty.
It's like I swear they make the chairs like that to piss you off. Like you're like, shit, straighten it out. I'm sitting here sleeping in a bucket that I paid $1,000 for.
I'm so happy you're going on vacation.
So hot. Can't wait to get there. All right, in this video, we're going to talk about how to use mechanical pain to your benefit.
But it's an endurance sport, unless the layout changes. But if the open stays the way that it is right now, you need an engine and you need muscle endurance and you need proficiency in gymnastics to get through stage one. So if you don't develop that, you're just wasting your time. So you still do need to get stronger. You're like way off in your strength metrics. It still needs to be a prioritization, but it shouldn't be your obsession.
More specifically, we have a lot of people that come to us with questions about using different ways to figure out when you need to deload. So if you're someone who has a good understanding of training and knowing that training needs to go in cycles, you need to have volume go up, intensity go up, volume come down, intensity go down, you need to deload here and then. There are different ways that you can use tools to figure out when it's time to do that. Max, what are some of the most common ones that you would see that people use to know when to back off?
Yeah, so I think most of the time people will use mood, appetite, digestive quality, like, you know, poop, how that looks. How's your poop look? Sex drive.
It came out with a thumbs up.
Yeah, sex drive, vigor to train. All of those things could be used as subjective qualities. I thought that I could use an inflammatory topic, like that, no pun intended, like pain, and say that pain, mechanical pain even, could actually be used to your benefit, and it might not necessarily only be a negative thing. And I think that understanding that pain is a signal from your body. It's an emotion. It's giving you a signal that something's wrong. There's a threat response. If you have pain in a joint, most likely there's some sort of instability. There's some sort of compression. A bone is hitting on a bone. There's a kink in the chain, or there's something that you would normally do in a movement that's causing instability. It's a threat. It's a threat to your system. So the medical establishment, not just the medical establishment, not everyone in the medical establishment, but generally doctors, orthopedics, PTs will say, oh, well, something's wrong if you're in pain. Oh, you're doing something wrong. And I think the medical literature in general has just disproven that. There's tons of articles, the common one on back pain, where they did all the imaging and there was pain in patients with no back dysfunctions, and there was no pain in people that had back dysfunctions, and basically just saying, like, we don't really know what pain is and what causes it, other than that it's a nervous system issue. So what I use pain for in my athletes is as a governor to moderate training volume and to move around the pain. So if you're pushing the body, if you're pushing the limits of human capacity, I want to have somebody be able to do, 30 muscle ups unbroken. It's a really, really high velocity skill. It requires excessive ranges of motion. You're generally doing it under fatigue. So if you're going to push somebody's capacity to do that, obviously you want to take the precautions to do it correctly, build isometrics, build glenohumeral joint mobility, build scapular mobility, build core control, build the ability to maintain proper joint sequencing when doing those movements, build technique. But if you're pushing the body, you're going to eventually get pain, right? Like something is going to be done above your level. I've always told my athletes, first, seek to understand it. Not every time that you're in pain is like, oh my God, something's wrong, I need to go to a doctor. You should be getting therapy all the time. Even when you're not in pain, you should always be doing body maintenance. But it's a great, great, great marker to back off. If we know that it's nervous system derived, and we know that training is an extremely sympathetically stressful thing, we know, hey, if we're experiencing chronic pain, if we're experiencing pain in a specific joint, it may be time to back off, right? And if I need to deload and my knees are sore, I might avoid knee flexion, bounding, anything that could potentially irritate that local area, and start trying to work on figuring out, like, well, is there something wrong? Is there something wrong with my foot architecture? Do I need to do foot strengthening drills? Do I need to do some lower intensity work? So it's a time to kind of back your training off and start to listen to your body. I've always said, like, the human body is such a complex system. Like, we're going to probably spend the next, 1,000 years trying to figure it out. And everyone at every stage of science is going to be like, oh, we got it figured out now. Oh, we got it figured out now. And we're never going to have it figured out. But if we know that the body is so complicated that we can't figure it out, we can't use our minds to try to figure it out, we should listen to it and learn to listen to it and learn to understand that the signals that it's sending at us, not just appetite, sex drive, mood, all of that stuff that we use, but also pain. It's a sensory signal that we should listen to use to govern training. So I thought that was actually a good topic to bring out. I'm sure in the open, people's joints are sore from doing high volume and doing retests too soon, and all of that should be learning experience for you to understand what your actual mechanical tolerance is, and potentially understand in the off season what you need to work on to build a mechanical structure that doesn't experience pain when you put it to the test.
Okay. Awesome. Question I have is, so what might be some mistakes when it comes to that deload? So if someone uses pain, mechanical pain, as a guide that I need to deload, but that pain is, pretty specific to the shoulder, does that mean I deload only my upper body? Does it mean all training altogether? I mean, it could highly vary.
Yeah, I mean, it really, really depends on what the issue is. So as a general rule of thumb, if everything is going right, and it's just a chronic or an acute issue, like, oh, I did something to my shoulder's bothering me, I might not need to deload my entire training structure. I just might need to deload away from that joint and then do things like controlled joint rotations and planks and isometrics and low level eccentrics to just heal that local area. So I'm just kind of regionally deloading them. If you're starting to just get achy, like you wake up in the morning and your back is hurting and your knees are hurting and you're just systemically starting to experience high levels of pain, and you can start to feel all of those issues, then we're looking at an entire deload. And that doesn't mean, I think people right now live in these crazy ends of the spectrum. You're either hammering it hard or you're laying on the couch and eating donuts. It could be something in between. You might go into the pool and deload your, get basically gravity off your back and just, swim a little bit, move your joints around, do some locomotion work, go for a nice easy hike, literally just move your body and stimulate your body, but in a very low intensity way. And sometimes even I've had athletes that go to float tanks every time they start to get tweaks, and do that for a night, then do yoga and some meditation, and then do another float tank session. And oftentimes, those 3 days are so profoundly impactful on their overall nervous system state that a lot of the chronic pain is just gone. Sometimes even overfeeding can help with it. But again, it's sending you signals, and bodies are so independent. Like, my body is going to operate differently than yours and Chris's. Like, they're just all going to be so different. And if that's the case, then you need to start understanding that your experience is giving you data as to how your body functions. So pain is part of your experience, and you should be using it to understand how to guide your own training.
Yeah, I think it's also a good idea to keep track of this too, because I see a lot of people, you should have some consistency in this. It may show up, if you're new in training and following a program, especially if you're writing for yourself. I think it's really important if you're writing for yourself that you need to kind of keep track of this, because you don't have a coach that's kind of overseeing and giving you an objective view of it. You need to take note, I notice every 3 weeks the same kind of things show up. I start getting these weird little tweaks and nagging little injuries that just kind of pop up when my training's starting to get really good, and then just follow that pattern. Yeah. If you don't track that, it's really hard to know.
Yeah, and jumping off on that topic, using mechanical pain to your benefit. If there's a movement that generally causes you pain, that's a signal that you need to do something about your training. So if you're like, well, muscle ups always hurt my shoulder, but if I bend my arms and I kip like this, it takes the stress off of my shoulder. that's probably a problem. It's not an efficient place to pull from. If you have to do that over and over and over again for a lot of reps, you're going to burn out more quickly. You're probably going to create strength on top of a dysfunctional pattern. You're going to lose your overhead mechanics. So it's a guide that you need to figure out what you need to do to get to the point that you can do pain-free muscle ups. So that might be doing end range lifts from a shoulder flexion position. It might be doing single arm hangs. It might be doing glenohumeral joint mobility. It might be doing scapular mobility. It might be doing back bridge development. I mean, there's a lot of things that might go into helping you get out of a pain of a specific movement. But again, it's a guide. It's telling you that there is a threat to your system. So if a movement's causing you a problem, you should know from your training that that's happening, and you should have a plan to fix that and get yourself into a pain-free environment so you can get after things more aggressively. And I think data is really the only way to do that. So either you or the coach that you hire should be collecting data on you, following a program, and not reporting it to anyone and not keeping track of it yourself, I think is just a recipe for mindless training that could potentially go nowhere, and you train for 2 years and not realize you didn't make any progress.
Anything else?
That's it.
That was good.
Yeah, so pain can be good.
Pain's your friend.